In the winter of 2013, Los Angeles buzzed with life, streets glowing under neon lights, the air filled with the sounds of traffic, music, and chatter. Amid the movement of the city, a young traveler named Elisa Lam arrived from Canada. She was full of excitement, eager to experience a new country and the pulse of downtown life. She checked into the Cecil Hotel, a tall, aging building standing between glamour and decay, its faded walls holding countless untold stories. For the first few days, her trip appeared normal. She explored local shops, took photographs, and posted updates online that showed a mix of curiosity and joy. Then, without warning, everything changed. Days passed without a single trace of her presence. She stopped updating her social media, and friends and family couldn't reach her. Concern turned into fear. The police became involved, and their investigation quickly uncovered something strange. The last confirmed sighting of Elisa was caught by the hotel's elevator security camera. The footage was unsettling. In the grainy black and white video, Elisa appeared to behave erratically. She stepped in and out of the elevator, pressed multiple buttons in rapid succession, and peered into the hallway as if searching for someone or something that wasn't visible. At moments, her movements seemed controlled, almost cautious, but then she would wave her arms in an odd, frantic manner, as though trying to communicate with an unseen presence. The doors remained open for an unusually long time, adding another layer of unease to the scene. The video was soon released to the public, and it spread across the internet like wildfire. Viewers around the world were captivated and disturbed, each forming their own theories. Some saw signs of fear, others thought she was hiding, and a few believed something supernatural was at play. This single piece of footage would become the central clue in one of the most haunting mysteries of the decade. The Cecil Hotel had stood in downtown Los Angeles for nearly a century, its towering frame a silent witness to countless lives passing through its doors. Built in the late 1920s as a symbol of luxury, it quickly fell victim to the economic struggles of the Great Depression. Over the decades, its grand image crumbled, and the building took on a darker identity. It became a temporary refuge for drifters, people down on their luck, and those seeking anonymity in the city's shadows. Within its walls, police records documented a staggering number of crimes, from robberies and assaults to murders that sent shockwaves through the community. Suicides were disturbingly frequent, often whispered about by long-term residents who claimed the building carried an unnatural energy. Notorious criminals, including serial killers, had used the hotel as a base during their most active years, blending into the chaos without drawing attention. Strange stories circulated among staff and tenants, objects moving on their own, sudden cold drafts in empty hallways, and lights flickering without explanation. Some guests reported feeling watched, even when alone in their rooms. For many locals, the hotel's name alone carried a warning. When Elisa Lam vanished, these dark associations immediately surfaced in the minds of both police and the public. It was easy to believe that her disappearance might be linked to the building's troubled history. Journalists began digging into old headlines, pairing them with her case in unsettling ways. The more details that emerged about her final days, the more the hotel seemed less like a random backdrop and more like a character in the mystery itself. It was as if the Cecil Hotel had a way of absorbing the tragedies of its guests, holding on to their stories, and weaving them into its own long, unbroken chain of misfortune. The search for Elisa Lam began with urgency and precision. Police officers, detectives, and hotel staff worked together to comb through every accessible area of the Cecil Hotel. Room after room was checked, from the top floors to the basement, but no trace of her was found. Security footage from the hallways offered nothing new beyond the eerie elevator video that had already puzzled investigators. Sniffer dogs were brought in, their handlers carefully guiding them through narrow corridors and dusty stairwells. The dogs eventually led their trainers to the rooftop, an area strictly off-limits to guests and secured with locked access points. Strangely, the scent trail ended abruptly, as if Elisa had disappeared into thin air. The rooftop itself was bare, its view stretching across the city, interrupted only by a cluster of large, industrial water tanks. At the time, they were not inspected closely, as opening them required considerable effort. Meanwhile, days turned into weeks, and frustration grew. Investigators questioned hotel employees and residents, trying to piece together any possible lead. No one reported seeing Elisa leave the building, nor did anyone recall unusual activity during the time she vanished. Then, complaints began to surface from guests about the water supply. Some said the pressure was low, others noticed an unusual taste or murky color in the tap water. These complaints were logged but not immediately connected to the disappearance. It wasn't until maintenance staff were instructed to investigate the rooftop plumbing system that the possibility arose, however grim, that the answers to Elisa's disappearance might be hidden somewhere above the city, in a place few people had the ability, or reason, to reach. The investigation was about to shift from a search for a missing person to something far darker. On a quiet morning, a maintenance worker made his way to the roof to investigate the hotel's water system. Guests had been complaining about weak water flow, strange odors, and a disturbing taste coming from the taps. Carrying his tools, he climbed the locked stairwell and stepped out onto the open rooftop, the wind sharp against his face. Before him stood the towering water tanks, 4 massive metal cylinders that supplied the entire building. One tank in particular caught his attention. Its lid was slightly ajar, not locked down as it should have been. Climbing the narrow ladder attached to the side, he reached the top and pushed the heavy hatch open. The sight inside froze him in place. Floating in the dark, cold water was the lifeless body of Elisa Lam. Her clothes matched the description from the missing person report, and the shock of the discovery spread quickly through the building. Police were called immediately, sealing off the area. The logistics of her presence there baffled investigators. The tanks were over 8 feet tall, slippery on the inside, and the hatch openings were too small for someone to easily enter without assistance. The rooftop door had an alarm that would have sounded if accessed without authorization, yet no such alarm had been reported. There were no signs of forced entry, no clear footprints, and no witnesses to explain how she ended up inside. The chilling reality set in. Not only had she died in an isolated and nearly inaccessible place, but the guests had unknowingly been consuming water from that very source for days. The discovery left both the public and the investigators stunned, transforming the case from a missing persons search into a deeply disturbing mystery with no obvious answers. The autopsy report stated that Elisa Lam's death was accidental, caused by drowning, with no signs of physical trauma or struggle. Traces of prescribed medication were found in her system, consistent with her known mental health history, leading authorities to suggest she may have suffered a breakdown that resulted in her climbing into the tank herself. While the official conclusion closed the case for the police, it opened a flood of speculation among the public. Online communities dissected every frame of the elevator footage, convinced there was more to the story. Some claimed to see a shadow or reflection suggesting another person just out of the camera's view. Others believed the elevator's malfunction, its doors remaining open far longer than normal, was evidence of tampering. More sensational theories emerged, connecting her death to the Cecil Hotel's violent past, insisting that something sinister, whether human or supernatural, had influenced her final moments. A few pointed to the impossibility of reaching the tanks without bypassing security measures, arguing that only someone with knowledge of the building could have placed her there. Paranormal enthusiasts suggested she had been targeted by an unseen force, drawn into the rooftop under its influence. Even years later, debates continued, with documentaries, podcasts, and internet forums keeping the case alive. For every person who accepted the official report, there was another who refused to believe it was so simple. The haunting elevator video remained the most powerful piece of evidence, replayed endlessly as viewers searched for clues in her movements. The Cecil Hotel eventually closed its doors to the public, but its reputation endured, tied forever to Elisa's unsolved mystery. Her story became more than just a tragic event, it became a modern legend, one that blurred the line between fact and fear.